Baby Jew said I miss Bean. Baby Jew said loudly crying face. Baby Jew said I'm not allowed. Baby Jew said because my morals. Baby Jew said I have so many gay and trans friends and the lady that made everything to do with Harry Potter pretty much spit in all of their faces and they loved Harry Potter. So I mindfully cannot. Baby Jew said you guess? Baby Jew said it's not weird. Baby Jew said it's like how I don't obsess over Nicki Minaj anymore because she's trash.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. Did you watch the State of the Union address last night? We do not blame you if you took a
Baby Jew said I'll listen to her yet, but I no longer obsess.
80-year-old Joe Biden shuffling stiff-legged and bewildered to the podium, a husk held together by Botox and enough amphetamines from the White House doctor to read the slogans written for him.
Baby Jew said you don't rolling on the floor laughing, but that's okay.
This is our president, ladies and gentlemen. It's always pretty hard to believe when you see it. The whole scene is so awful, so degrading to our once proud country, it cannot end soon enough. But the moment was, we will confess, at times pretty amusing. At one point, the eminent TV doctor, Dr. Jill, who really ought to have her own show on Bravo dispensing sassy and empowering medical advice, walked over to Kamala Harris's husband, Doug Emhoff, and kissed him deeply, square in the mouth without a mask, something that never ever happens at his house. What was that about? There was an unmistakable 1970s suburban Connecticut Key Party vibe to it. Kind of a John Cheever story, old school stuff, except they let bystanders film the whole thing. So clearly these people are exhibitionists too. Not tea.
Baby Jew said, do you think it's wrong the way some of my friends are?
In the Biden administration, a lot of which we don't want to know more about. But where do these people find the time for hijinks? Dr. Jill, for example, is extremely, extremely busy, way busier than you are. According to her husband, Dr. Jill is working day and night to drag this country out of its medieval ignorance. And that's not an easy task. Watch.
Baby Jew said no, it didn't be. Baby Jew said what? Baby Jew said baby. Baby Jew said Baby Jew said why would you need to? Baby Jew said baby, people get disowned for being gay or trans. They get beat. They get killed. They get called wrong. Baby Jew said hello. Baby Jew said because they had to. Baby Jew said had to make it known. Baby Jew said I'm about to leave you. Baby Jew said it is that deep. Baby Jew said because people get killed for existing. Baby Jew said stop. Baby Jew said straight people get killed for being straight. Baby Jew said you are a fucking dumbass. Baby Jew said good night.
Jill, my wife, who teaches full-time, has an expression. I hope I get it right, kid. Any nation that out-educates us is going to out-compete us.
Wait a second. Dr. Jill is teaching, quote, full-time? How many hours a week is full-time? And where is this happening? What school or university or madrasa is she teaching at? What is she teaching? Can we sign up for her class? How come we didn't know any of this until last night? Any nation that out-educates us is going to outcompete us, says Dr. Jill, and that's a fair point. Today is the first day of the rest of your life. Bravo, Dr. Jill, bravo! The question is, how shall we as a nation respond to Dr. Jill's clarion call for action? Obviously, you need to shut down the schools for an entire year because unionized teachers feel like longer vacations, and then get rid of all standardized tests because racism. That's the solution. It turns out that Dr. Jill, who, like an awful lot of community college geniuses from Delaware who've received advanced degrees in, quote, education, she has an awful lot of good ideas. We ought to listen to her more. Unfortunately, we don't often get the chance because she's always teaching. So that really was the highlight of the evening, Dr. Jill making out with the vice president's husband, and then Joe Biden bragging about a job she doesn't actually have. Pretty hard not to find that funny. And then there was Biden himself. Now, the president's mental condition is either scary and depressing, deeply alarming, or absolutely hilarious, depending upon your mood. Last night, for lack of other entertainment options, we decided to find it funny. So take in this steaming pile of word puree and see if you can make sense of it.
As we made clear last week, if China threatens our sovereignty,
Baby Jew said you don't get disowned for being straight. You don't have to tell your parents you're straight because it isn't looked at as a big deal. You don't get the shit beat out of you for being.
Become stronger, not weaker. Autocracy has grown weaker, not stronger. Name me a world leader who changed places with Xi Jinping. Name me one. Name me one.
We shot down their balloon. So name me a world leader.
Baby Jew said literally got the shit beat out of me by my mom and by my ex for having a past relationship with a girl.
Friends, democracy is winning tonight. Now, we have no idea what any of that means any more than Xi Jinping does, but the trained seals in the crowd loved it. They clapped consistent with their species. Actually, sorry, that is unfair to seals. There's not a seal in the ocean, or even at SeaWorld, who would wear an I love abortion pin. That is too low even for marine mammals. They may eat live fish, but they're not ghouls. Congressional Democrats, by contrast, are ghouls. Take a look at this pin, which has replaced the American flag on their lapels. Notice that the O in abortion is in the shape of a heart. They literally love abortion. Now, let's set aside the politics and ask an honest question. Who loves abortion? Honestly, who loves abortion? Maybe you think abortion should be legal, but do you love abortion? Do you think abortion is a wonderful, affirming act you feel so proud of? You brag about it with jewelry? If you feel that way, you should know that you are not defending a medical
Hi, Ben. Thanks for doing the tomahawk chop. Very epic. Thank you.
You bet. You know, when people say that that's like a racist thing, I have to say, if people just went to a stadium and started cheering for the Jews, you know how happy I would be?
So my question is very quick. What is your favorite argument for God's existence and why?
Okay, so my favorite argument for God's existence is that I believe in free will. Okay, the reason that I think this is an argument for God's existence is because if you believe that human beings are essentially just balls of meat wandering around aimlessly in the universe, the kind of Spinoza's stone that thinks that it was moving of its own accord but actually was thrown, if you believe that and you don't believe in free will, then there's an internal coherence and logic to it. If you believe that you have the ability to make independent choices, that you can actually supersede your own biological drives and the environment around you to any extent, even to the smallest extent, this means that you believe in something that can't actually be proved by science, but that you are living every single day. And the notion that you have that will, and not only that you have that will, but that that will is capable of comprehending the universe around you, that your will is sort of, your ideas, your ability to comprehend the universe is a reflection of a reality, of an objective truth that is out there, that says to me that there is a God, there's a common source that stands behind that objective truth and stands behind the mind that can comprehend that truth, right? Sort of a Kantian argument for the existence of God.
Baby Juice said, but please tell me how me wanting all of the negative labels of you fucking dyke, what are you, a fucking lesbian, queer, whatever the fuck. If people want to take control of their own.
Why do you believe you're right about trans people given the American Psychological Association, American Medical Association, American Psychoanalytic Association? I can go on for about 5 more associations that are very prominent and govern the existing like health government or health industries within like the major Western countries. And all of these associations
Baby
have
Juice said,
multiple
don't speak on
thousands of
something that you are
doctors,
uneducated about.
sociologists, psychologists, and with PhDs in their respective fields backing the idea that sex and gender are different, effectively
Baby Juice said,
gaining
talking
the
about
medical
needing a straight pride.
consensus for sex and gender
Baby
being
Juice
two
said, then you
different
should know.
concepts, yet you have a different opinion.
Okay, so sex and
Baby Juice
gender
said, get
are
closer
two
to them
different
and talk
concepts,
about them.
but gender is tied to biology. So one of the big problems that you see in sort of the argument in favor of trans rights is this notion that gender and
Baby
sex
Juice
are
said, talk to
completely
them.
separable. They're not completely separable.
Baby Juice
If
said,
they are
SMH.
completely separable, then this means that identifying people by their subjective gender really has no relevance as to whether they are a male or a female.
Baby Juice said,
male
stop.
and female are biological terms. So using terminology like male and female to describe a self-perception of they're not.
Yet you have and all of the that are very prominent and govern association, American.
Baby Juice said no.
Why do you believe you're right about trans people given the American Psychological Association, American Medical Association, American Psychoanalytic Association? I can go on for about 5 more associations.
Baby Juice said, I'm laying down
that
and
are
watching
very
Netflix.
prominent and
Good
govern
night.
the existing like health government or health industries within
Baby Juice said, I love you.
like the major Western countries. And all of these associations have multiple thousands of doctors, sociologists, psychologists, and with PhDs in their respective fields backing the idea that sex and gender are different, effectively gaining the medical consensus for sex and gender being two different concepts, yet you have a different opinion.
Okay, so sex and gender are two different concepts, but gender is tied to biology. So one of the big problems that you see in sort of the argument in favor of trans rights is this notion that gender and sex are completely separable. They're not completely separable. If they are completely separable, then this means that identifying people by their subjective gender really has no relevance as to whether they are a male or a female. Male and female are biological terms. So using terminology like male and female to describe a self-perception of maleness or femaleness is sort of a bizarre way of arguing whether a thing is a man or a woman. So here's my question. It's an argument that my friend Matt Walsh likes to make. What is a woman? Define what a woman is without reference to the word woman, please.
So this is actually a logical fallacy called a red herring. You're asking me a question in order to actually challenge my question without actually
No, it isn't. I'm saying
answering
that it really is not. I'm saying that biology, I'm agreeing with you that the notion of gender, which is effeminateness or masculinity, can be different from biology in the sense that biology is just pure male or pure female. But to suggest that there is such a thing as an effeminate male is not to suggest that an effeminate male is now a woman. Transgenderism makes the argument that if you believe that you are a woman, you are therefore a woman. Or if you believe that you are a man, you are therefore a man. I disagree with this. There are objective measures as to whether you're a man or a woman. There are objective measures as to whether you're male or female. There's certainly a spectrum with regard to effeminateness versus masculinity. That's certainly true, but that does not change the underlying sexual dichotomy that is the basis for all
Baby
human
Juice said we had to
reproduction.
have a talk about comments about rape. We had to have a talk about basic respect for other people and how they
so
feel.
this dichotomy
I'm genuinely
is a
confused
false
and concerned and
dichotomy
kind of
that
hurt.
isn't supported by any of the medical associations that I just named
Then
off.
let me
None
explain.
of the
Then
medical associations that I just named off would actually support the idea that gender is biological. This is something that's completely untrue within every single medical consensus.
Well, then I will just say that anyone who suggests that gender has no reference whatsoever to biology, it's not connected in any way to biology, is just full of shit. Because if the and the reason I and the reason that I say
then you classify.
Baby Juice said, I'm not saying you do.
Just disagree with medical consensus
yes,
within the
I
Western
disagree.
nations.
Yes, I disagree with the false medical consensus driven by politically driven
Baby
quote-unquote
Juice said, I'm not sure what
If
you're
any
not
doctor
understanding.
denies to me that there is a dichotomy between male and female, a sexual dichotomy between male and female,
Baby
they're
Juice said that's
ignorant
what's scary to me.
and they are letting their politics get in the way of their science. Anybody who suggests to you that there is such a thing, for example, as a pregnant male is not a doctor, they are an activist.
I'm very glad that none of these opinions are actually accepted in academia and haven't been for over 70 years. Sent this here on Twitter.
Okay, so the notion that they haven't been accepted for over 70 years is a bizarre one, considering they were accepted until about 5 minutes ago. And the basic idea that male and female do not exist runs counter to all mammalian biology, all of it, not just human. Are we to suggest that gender and sex are different in walruses? How does this work exactly? Are they different in bears? Anytime you have all mammalian reproduction is rooted in the idea that there's a sexual dichotomy between male and female. To obscure that with all sorts of semantic
Baby
word
Juice said
games
it's a
about
complete
how
and
you
utter
feel
ignorance to the situation.
subjectively
You should
has
not have an
no
opinion on
bearing
something as
whether
minuscule
male
as
and female
pronouns when
are
you aren't even
categories that
completely certain why they're
exist. And if
becoming.
you're trying to define male and female with reference to any subjective category that cannot be identified by any metric whatsoever other than how you feel today, I challenge whether that is scientific or whether that is merely a self-perception that is being guided by a political agenda. I'm sorry, I could spend more time on this, but we have to get to the next question. I appreciate it.
Hey, Ben Chabibo, good to see you. Hey, everybody here, good to see you guys too. I'm glad to be here. I got in on the stand-in line, so I'm really happy to be here. Do you know about the bill that Republicans are trying to pass to stop critical race theory being taught in college?
I'm aware that there is a bill. I haven't read the text of it, but go ahead.
Okay, so in Florida, I think it's going to go... Oh, I look sick. So it's going to be decided, I guess. We're going to talk about it in, December.
Yeah, in the new legislative session, correct?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So as a Republican, being pro-free speech, do you have anything to say against this? We're really simply just outlawing certain words to be used in public spheres, such as education. I feel like more Republicans should kind of see this as concerning. You guys always quote 1984, whatever. This is like an Orwellian move, isn't it?
So it depends on what level of education we're talking about. If we're talking about the idea that critical race theory can be taught as one of many theories on college campuses, I have no problem with it. Marxism is taught as one of many theories on college campuses. If the idea is that we're going to be teaching critical race theory, which is not taught as one of many theories, it's taught as a framework for understanding the world, and it is a lens through which we are to view history. This is something that the founders of critical race theory openly acknowledge. They suggest that critical race theory has a praxis component, meaning it's a practice component that is designed in order to indoctrinate kids in a particular type of thinking about how America's institutions work. Do I think that the taxpayers of the state of Florida have an obligation to subsidize the indoctrination of their children in that? No. And I think that public education, as an institution, is dedicated not merely to the idea that you send your kids to school and then the teachers dump whatever they want on your kids. I think the idea is that the parents delegate their power to educate their children to the state via the public schools, and then they have the authority and should have the authority to determine what framework is being taught. And the anti-American framework of critical race theory, which is unrooted in actual history, ought not be taught in America's public schools.
Critical race theory is literally a footnote in my sociology class, and it's a framework if you want to take it in as a framework.
Listen, I learned critical race theory when I was at Harvard Law School too, right? I mean,
facts, whenever you talk about critical race theory, you say the right things, you know what you're talking about, but because you're a Republican, it's the talking point to go against.
No,
I'm a pro-free speech American, so this deeply concerns me when there are words, exact words, that are being restricted in the public sphere.
Well, that's why I
you guys
just distinguish.
opened up by saying marketplace of ideas.
So
I'm a big marketplace
right.
of
So
ideas guy.
again, I would distinguish between marketplace of ideas in the college realm and when presumably people are old enough to actually understand what they're talking about, have open and interesting debates about these topics, and when you're talking about 11-year-olds or 10-year-olds, or when you're talking about reading Ibram X. Kendi, which is a really dumbed-down version of critical race theory for 5-year-olds.
Colleges, not for 11-year-olds.
Well, then
this is for colleges.
I'd be happy to look at the text of the bill and determine what I think about the bill. I do think that public schools, I'm not sure that public schools have an obligation to teach as practical critical race theory. Again, I think there are different ways that it's taught. So if we're talking about just in your sociology class, it's one of many theories about American history, and now we're going to talk about how it applies. I don't really have a problem with that being taught. If we're talking about critical race theory being taught as a framework to view America's institutions to the exclusion of other frameworks, I do.